welcome back to the Holistic Speaker Training with Seth Braun. I'm so grateful that you are continuing on for number 3. It's going to be a little longer, but stick with it because it's so essential. It's how do you outline your talk for maximum effectiveness of delivery of content, of engagement, and to enroll people in continuing to work with you and continuing to be a client or continue to be part of your programs. Every good talk is structured with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And specifically, your beginning includes an intro, a dyad, and an overview. I'm going to explain what that means in a moment. The middle should contain 3 distinct sections, no more than 3. Even if you're teaching the 21 secrets to great health, they should be divided up in sections of 7. And finally, the end, you'll have a dyad, a review, and a close. Let's start with the beginning. Before you even get into your content, you need to consider that your introduction, that means the written material that you hand to someone that is going to be read before you get on stage. Now, this might be something that's just printed up in a brochure, it might be in a handout, or it might be spoken. This is actually the first step before you even begin speaking. It needs to be strong and powerful. If someone is going to introduce you, you want to make sure that they have practiced. Insist that they read through it and practice the introduction, because your introduction is the platform. It provides the energy from which your content is going to spring from. And if your introduction sounds like, next is Seth Braun, he's a best-selling author of indestructible success. You don't want that. You don't want the person introducing you to be fumbling with words. Then you have to start from even lower and build it back up. So really, your content begins with the introduction before you even begin speaking. Now, your introduction is a 1 to 3 minute mini story that's going to set the tone for your presentation. I was walking down the street, the sun was shining, I was picking mulberries from the mulberry tree, and I saw my best friend from high school who I hadn't seen in years, and it started a whole new adventure to my day. Some kind of story that's tactile, it's visceral, there's got taste, smell, it's senses, something that brings people in that you can really own. It's personal story. But it's got to have a point, it's got to have one main idea that's going to set up the rest of the content of your talk. And that set up my day. I saw my best friend, we're eating mulberries together, and he asked me, so, what have you been doing with your life? And that brought me to consider, what have I been doing with my life? And today in this presentation, we're going to discuss how you can make the most of your life. And you're going to learn X, Y, and Z. That's your introduction. It has a theme based on a story. What have you done with your life? And then it brings in 3 coherent points right in the introduction. Second step is to say, and what I'd love to know is, why did you come here to this talk today? What do you hope to get out of this? Please turn to a partner and share with them your name, where you're from, and what you'd like to get out of this presentation today. Immediately, it gets people engaged. And you know what? People come to a presentation, they don't want to hear you talk. They want to talk to one another. They want to be heard. They want to have an experience. Sure, they want to hear what you have to say, but we're all starved for listening. We're all starved for experiences. So you're there not just to be a talking head. You're there to provide an experience. You're facilitating an event for other people. Now, this may not be true if you're giving a TED Talk. This may not be true if you're speaking at a conference. This may not be true if you're getting paid to present an academic paper. The content we're talking about here is primarily for professionals in getting clients and speaking. This is a no-fee talk or even a fee talk, but you're presenting on content that's educational, but also giving people the opportunity to be introduced and invited in to your practice. After the dyad, and we're still in the beginning, you're going to do an overview. Now, overview is different from your introduction in that an overview is going to spend about 5 minutes giving people a really good sense of what they're about to learn. So as I've mentioned in this presentation, how to make the most out of your life, I said you're going to learn 3 things. Well, those 3 things are, number 1, and you present what that is. And you give people a sense of the content, 30 seconds to 60 seconds of what that's going to be, what they're going to learn, the takeaway. Number 2, same thing, 30 to 60 seconds. And number 3, same thing. And in this presentation, we'll put all these together so you can take away and you give them that takeaway. You come back to that main point that you've introduced in your introduction. Then we move into the middle of your presentation. In the middle of your presentation is what we generally think of as your talk. This is where you're actually going to spend time presenting. So if this is a 45-minute outline, we've just spent about 15 minutes in the beginning. Now we're going to spend about 15 minutes in the middle. Believe it or not, a 45-minute presentation only has 15 minutes of content. Lots of times people say, I don't know, how am I going to present for 45 minutes? You really only need 15 minutes of content. And that 15 minutes of content really should be about 4 minutes with a break. Ask a question, make sure people get it, present your second main idea. Again, even if it's multiple points, it needs to be grouped together with some binding concept. And then you take a little break, maybe ask people some questions. You can do a quick dyad in there, turn to your partner that you shared with, and see how that's showing up in your life. And then the third point, very straightforward, same piece, except at the end of the 3, you recap by saying, okay, now turn to your partner and share with them what's the most important point for you. Is it 1, 2, or 3? What's most meaningful in your life? Then you're going to have a review. Now the review ties back to the overview. It should be the exact same thing. You want to say the same thing you said in the overview in the review, because to you, you know this material. You've heard it over and over again. It's obvious. But for your audience, this is new. So you want to give them the same words, the same phrases, so they begin to become familiar, because through repetition, they start to be able to hang their hat on different mental synapses. It starts to build pathways that they're like, oh yes, I'm learning this, I'm getting this. Learning is like flying over terrain in a helicopter. You're flying over Montana in a helicopter the first time, it's just like, wow, I don't even know. There's mountains, there's plains, there's bushes and plants. I can't tell what anything is. I couldn't tell you where I've been. The second time you start to notice the bigger features of the landscape. But the third time you're able to start putting it all together. I remember there's a mountain range, there's a river, there's a sandy area, there's a more bush area. Same thing with a presentation. You're giving people multiple touch points over and over again to familiarize them with the concepts. Then you're going deeper in detail, then you're coming back out, and the review is going to be the exact same content as the overview. So today you've learned point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, and then the close. The close can include invitation to continue working with you. It can include an opportunity to buy a book or buy your services, but it needs to tie back to the story from the introduction. And after that day of seeing my best friend from high school, and she asked me, what have you been doing with your life? It caused me to reflect, and I came up with these points that I've shared with you today. And I've decided that I'm going to make the most of the rest of my life, and you should too, by doing these 3 things and by signing up for a free consultation or buying my book or whatever it may be. And the close needs to tie back into this story. So to recap, outlining your content for a great presentation to get clients or even as a paid speaker has 3 sections: beginning, middle, and end. The beginning starts before you even open your mouth, with the introduction that you write that's going to show up in the brochure or the handouts or read by the MC. Then your introduction is going to be a short story. Then you're going to have a dyad asking people why they came or what they'd like to get out of the event. Then you're going to have an overview. This is to tell them what you're about to tell them. Then you're going to give your content 3 points, never more than 3 points. Even if you have 15 points, it's 5, 5, and 5, grouped together by affinity. Then you have a dyad What did you learn? What part of this resonated for you? Then your review, it's the exact same thing as the overview. Today you've learned 1, 2, and 3. You articulate a little bit about it. And then the close. The close ties back into the introduction and makes a final point, and it gives people something to hang on to. This has been how to outline your content in video number 3 in the Holistic Speaker Training. Stay tuned for video number 4, in which we answer how do you get paid as a speaker. Look forward to talking to you then.